Says it very clearly in the scriptures. For 6 days you shall work, on the seventh day you shall rest. And we do a really bad job of that. In fact, the word in Hebrew literally means Shabbat, which means to stop, to cease all of activity. And we should speak about how our family, I could be traveling for 6 days, but as long as we get one Sabbath, it makes up for all those 6 days. No phones, no technology.
You know, I get a lot of questions about that. They say, Charlie, why do you talk about Shabbat so much? You're a Christian. And I say, look, first of all, if you believe Jesus is Lord, then you believe in the creation and the promises of God are complete through the entire Bible. But I'm not going to get too theological. If you rest for 24 hours, you will be blessed. And if you decide not to, then that's fine. I know that my life before honoring the Sabbath and after honoring the Sabbath, they don't even compare. And some people say, well, Charlie, why Saturday instead of Sunday? That's a good question. And I don't want to be overly legalistic about it. Maybe Sunday's a better day for you to totally rest. But I love, for me personally, ending Friday after a long week and totally shutting off. And on Sunday, I'm already thinking about Monday. On Saturday, I can truly rest and I can truly stop. And so whatever day works for you. For me, it's the old traditional Jewish Sabbath. In this highly technological world, where we're all staring at screens, we're all overindulged in the news cycle. Let me say this, you're missing out. You're missing out if you are not stopping for one day. In the book of Deuteronomy, which means second law, Moses was giving his farewell address. And as Moses was giving his farewell address, he repeated the 10 commandments, which were identical except the commandment that had to do with the Sabbath, the Shabbat. And when it was repeated in Deuteronomy, he said, for 6 days you shall work, and for 1 day you shall rest, because you are no longer slaves in Egypt. And by the way, it's a two-pronged commandment. You should not be resting for 7 days a week. It's okay to take vacations. That's obvious. That's fine. But you should not be resting in your normal flow of work for more than 1 day. And I encourage you guys to have that in your schedule. Just the one little thing that you could look forward to and you plan, you say, that, I'm going to just shut it all off. That actually makes you work harder. It makes you think clearer. It makes you get what you want to get done before that. It's a finish line. It's a self-imposed deadline. And it's biblical. And it's freeing. And in this mad world we live of tyrants, despots, degenerates, and cockroaches, it's very freeing.
I think that to our own detriment and to our own failure, we as Christians have decided to cast away resting on one of the 7 days. God rested after creation. That comes before the Hebrews. It comes even before the creation of the modern world and civilization as we know it. And it says very, very clearly in the scriptures, for 6 days you shall work, and the seventh day you shall rest. If you are feeling overrun by society, you might be feeling depressed or anxious, here's this one way that you might be able to improve. Turn your phone off for 1 day. No contact, no social media, no work. Your mental health will improve dramatically. That is a day to go be with God. That is a day to read your Bible and be out of the busyness and the hurriedness and the anger and the noise of this world. Go back to God's natural rhythm, and it's made our family much tighter knit. And I could be traveling for 5 or 6 days, but if I at least get one good Sabbath with my family, it charges all back up. Last July, I was traveled all across the country last year. I was getting really stressed and just worn down, typical stuff that happens on the road. And a pastor friend of mine said, Charlie, you got to take a Sabbath. And I was like, oh, we're not bound by that commandment, whatever. And he really convicted me. So every Friday night, I take a Jewish Sabbath, turn off my phone Friday night to Saturday night. The world cannot reach me, and I get nothing from the world. It will bless you infinitely. Now, I'm not saying you're bound by the law as a Christian. I'm not saying that that's something you have to do. I'm saying it will make your life better. It was important enough that God put it as one of the 10 commandments. And I will say, there's debate in some theological circles that we are bound to it because it predated the law. God rested after creation. So I want you to think about that. So Friday night to Saturday night, no one can reach me, and I wake up, I wake up on Saturday night, I open up my phone, 600 text messages, 900, whatever, but it is the best 24 to 25 hours. And if every young person took a legitimate Sabbath from Friday night to Saturday night, I guarantee you, anxiety would go down, depression would go down, you'd actually spend time with people you care about, meaningful conversations would happen. So I challenge you, if you incorporate that in your life, there's no negative. The only negative would possibly be if you had to contact someone in an emergency. If it's an emergency, then fine, open up your phone. That's a separate conversation. Emergencies don't happen every week, and if they do, you got other problems.
I'm sorry to see Charlie go so young. His family and friends have been robbed of years they should have shared. Yet in the midst of that grief, his witness still speaks. When Charlie and Erica discovered the biblical Sabbath, they didn't just talk about it, they lived it. From sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday, they turned off their phones, stepped away from their platforms, and gave God their undivided attention. They read, prayed, walked, laughed, and let the rest of the world wait. They found, as millions have before them, that true Sabbath rest isn't a burden but a blessing, a day designed by the Creator Himself for our healing. That is why losing Charlie hurts all the more. We need voices willing to say, stop, slow down. Remember who you are and whose you are. Perhaps it will inspire countless people to look beyond a culture that glorifies busyness and rediscover the gift that has been waiting since Eden. Imagine what could happen if millions set aside their devices and agendas for one day each week to reconnect with their families and their Maker. Imagine if we stopped measuring our worth by what we produce and started measuring it by how deeply we love. The Sabbath is a weekly reset, a time to recharge physically and spiritually, to unlearn the lie that we are slaves to our work, and to taste a little of the peace heaven promises. Charlie's testimony makes clear that the Sabbath is not just for one group of people or one era of history. It is a universal invitation to rest in God's finished work. If His story moves you, don't let it end there. Dig deeper. Open a Bible and read the fourth commandment. Talk with your family about setting aside a day to rest together. My hope is that, even through this tragedy, Charlie's legacy will lead countless others into the light of God's true rest.